Hey everybody, this is Kim,
Hey, this is Steven.
and this is Thompson's Reading. And what episode is this?
Episode number 8.
All right, so we have a little bit in store for you guys. We're going to talk about what we finished. Surprise, surprise, lots of finishes. And then we have a couple other things we're going to talk about, and that'll wrap it up. So why don't you get started?
All right, well, I got my momentum back. We were on vacation. I finished 3 books while we were on vacation, and then I finished 1 more yesterday, so that's 4 books. I got my momentum going. So a little bit of fiction, a little bit of nonfiction. So here we go. First books, I'm going to do 2, right? And then throw it back over to you. All right, so first one that I finished is called 3 Mile an Hour God. There's a theme in the books that I read about slowing down and working at a sustainable pace. What's great about this book is he talks about slow spirituality, kind of being at the pace that Jesus was at, because Jesus walked, in the first century. What's also great is that this is written by a Japanese theologian, so it's great to see theology taught from a non-Western perspective. And it's really interesting because he talks a lot about Japan in the 1940s and the cult of the emperor, and how Japan really went to the edge before World War II, and how that distorted their spirituality, and how Japan came back after World War II, and after Hiroshima. So it is, we as Americans don't think of the trauma that occurred, in these countries. So it's really a very fascinating read, and I enjoyed it. 3 Mile an Hour God. It is spirituality, history. It is a challenging read. So it's not light, fluffy reading. All right. Another book that I finished, this one is phenomenal. I didn't do that thing today. Getting over productivity guilt. Now, I definitely have productivity guilt. I'm working on my doctorate. I'm a writer, full-time school principal. I love keeping busy, and I think I keep busy at a healthy pace. But this book really kind of dove into helping me overcome a lot of bad habits. So some really cool things in this book. They talked about the paradox of choice. For instance, when we go on Netflix and we can't find something to watch, so we scroll around Netflix for 30 minutes, and then we don't end up watching anything because we have so many choices we can't pick one, and we're indecisive. It also talked about delightful discipline, and this was really neat for me, is that a lot of times we can be disciplined, and it's kind of a fear-based discipline. Like, I got to get this done, or I'll lose my job, won't be able to pay my rent, I'll be homeless, so we do all of our work. But rather, delightful discipline is do all your work and I can enjoy it. Like, I can choose to do my work and be fun, have fun doing it. So it made me think about, you can lead from fear or you can lead from fun. And I think we tend to think fun may be immature or irresponsible, but I think that if I work from a position of fun, I still get the results done. So why not enjoy myself doing my work rather than being afraid, and then I'll still get the same results, but I'll be better internally. So that book, great. So Kim, tell us what you finished up.
So just to wrap it up a little bit, this one is by Kosuke Koyama. So you can see that author. And this one is by Madeline Dorr. You can see that author. So yeah, great review. Both books, you seem to have loved both, so that's pretty cool. All right, so I finished 6 books. Actually, I may have finished more, but we're going to talk about the physical books that I finished for the month of July, and then I'll eventually share with you what I've already finished. I think 2 books for August. Talk about that another time, and yeah, so. For the books I finished, that one was, I'm not doing them in the right order, guys, because I can't remember, and I don't feel like, I'm not going to pull out Goodreads right now, but I finished Britt Marie Was Here, and you guys know, and I think I told you that, this is by Frederick Bachman. I told you that I just fell in love with this author after I read Anxious People. So I have I went on Thrift Books and I bought a lot of his stuff. And so I'm trying to read one Bachman every month until I get through his whole catalog. So Brett Marie was here was awesome. Again, another kind of kind, curmudgeonly kind of character, but she wasn't curmudgeonly. Brett Marie was very proper. She had ideas about how things should go. And when those things did not, in her own life, she suffered because she was intent on doing things the way they should be done instead of what she wanted to do until she ends up in this small little town and they don't do anything like she thinks they should be doing it. But they, on that journey, she finds the freedom to begin to live the way she should be living and start to finally make choices for herself. This was a fantastic read, slice of life, social commentary. Frederick Bachman is really a genius writer, hilarious. All of them, all of the books so far have an element of humor. Just really fantastic. So really enjoyed that one. And this one, Normal People by Sally Rooney. I picked up this book because I found a list of 100 books that Obama has recommended over the years. This was one of them. So this was about a couple who meet in high school, and they they meet in high school. He's popular, she's not. But she's rich, he's not. In fact, her mother works to clean her house, and that's how they know each other. But when they're at school, they don't even act like they know each other. They don't, because he's real cool. He's a cool kid. He's a popular kid. He's on the whatever team, soccer or something like that. But the whole time he's developing this relationship with her. And she, but by the time they get to college, that all switches. She becomes, the bon vivant. She is, the talk of the town. She is the one who is popular, and then he's not. But this whole book is about their relationship. It's super, super dysfunctional. She has so much stuff going on in her background, which you learn about down the line. But it's kind of a dark book. I would not say. I mean, there was really nothing super redeeming about it, except that they managed to stay together. They managed to eventually be together out loud, and yeah. But it was a darker book. Was nothing fluffy about this book. Anyway, I enjoyed it. Here's one of the things about this book, and I heard that another Irish author, she's Irish, they don't use quotation marks. They do use punctuation, but you know how quotation marks show you when the characters are talking. That does not happen here, and it does make it a little bit harder to read. So that's it for my two.
All righty, so back to what I was reading. So for me, I love to reflect on my previous school year and try to incorporate new things into my leadership. And the book that I finished, Slow Productivity by Cal Newport. This book is truly a life changer in how I work. Like, the two books together were kind of dropped into my lap by the universe, kind of know what I needed. Slow productivity. So there are three things that Cal Newport talks about for slow productivity. Do fewer things, work at a sustainable pace, and focus on quality. Now, for me, I'm a person who does a lot. And a lot of stuff supports me, but it also can create anxiety. And he talks about you don't have to work at this anxious pace all the time. Like, everything is an urgent, important, on fire, and you're acting like it. For example, I'm one of those inbox zero people. As soon as I get an email, I answer it. If I were to wait a full 24 hours to answer an email, I would start kvetching. I have to answer right away. But I don't really have to answer right away. People aren't waiting for my email to answer right away. So I don't have to answer it right away. I don't have to have all this angst about sending an email and answering it right away. I can take my time. The whole point of doing fewer things is that he uses all of these case studies and talks about an author who's written 24 books. So obviously he's productive, but he would take 2 or 3 days and just lay on a park bench and stare at the clouds. And in that time, he was preparing himself. Now, I would think that that would be lazy, that would be unproductive. I wouldn't allow myself to do that, but it does allow you to get focused. So for me, I began to take that work on fewer things more seriously. So I'm working on my doctorate, I'm working on my novel, and I'm working on a big project at work. And I'm going to try to keep them combined to those projects and not add throughout the year. And then if I'm just focusing on the few, I'm working at a sustainable pace. Like I will work myself sick. I will work myself to where I am not sleeping right, and I hold it as a badge of honor. Oh, I'm super productive. No, I'm getting super unhealthy. So, and it's hard because internally I'm like, no, you'll get lazy. But no, I won't. I will finish my work at a healthy pace, and I'll have just the same amount of results. So, Slow Productivity, a wonderful, wonderful book. So,
very cool.
Last book I finished on my trusty Kindle. This was a fiction book. It was called A Very Nice Box. I found it on Seth Godin's book recommendation list. I enjoy getting books off of recommendations. This was kind of a really suspenseful page-turner book. It's I think it's something that could be made into a movie in the future. It's twists and turns. It's romance. It's about a woman who's an engineer who works at an IKEA-type company in New York. It's written by 2 fabulous women authors. It's a fabulous book. I loved it. A Very Nice Box. Read it on my Kindle. My Kindle hack. I check it out from the library. Then I turn off the Wi-Fi and it doesn't return the book. Then when I found other books that I'll talk about in the next segment, I had to finish this one so I could turn the Wi-Fi back on, and then the book will get returned. So that's my Kindle library hack. There you go.
All right. Hold on one second, guys. Be right back. All right. So 2 more books that I read. My plan for July was really, I looked for some books that were really, I picked up some of the books that I had purchased that were less than 200 pages just so I can get them done. And a lot of these, because we went on vacation for like 10 days and had a flight, and that is why I know I was able to finish so many books, because as we told you guys on the last episode, or one before the last one, we got a puppy, and she takes up, it's like having a baby. If you've raised a puppy, you already know she takes up a lot of time, and so I haven't read nearly as much as I normally would, but we went on vacation, and so I got some other things done. So I read The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros, and I actually really enjoyed this. Let me show you the back so you can see Sandra. And I enjoyed it. It is actually, the way it's written, it's a series of vignettes. So you see, that's a vignette, and then you turn the page, and there's another one. So it's not, like a novel per se, but it's really from the perspective of the main character growing up in Chicago, which is why I was drawn to it. I had to look up and find out if we really did have a Mango Street in Chicago, and we don't. We have a Mango Avenue, but it's not where she grew up, where the author grew up. So it's kind of, she made that one up. But it was, she was a Latina girl growing up. The main character's name is Esperanza Cordero. And if you guys know anything about the city of Chicago, and even if you don't, I'm about to tell you, it is, from what I understand, the most segregated city in the country. And so, and it still is. So everybody lives in their own neighborhood. So she would have grown up, the author would have grown up And at the time this book was written, they call it the character grew up in the Hispanic quarter of Chicago. Well, I'm from Chicago, and there's not just one area of because we have a lot of Latin American countries represented, and so you have areas where there's a pocket of Puerto Ricans, a pocket of Mexicans, a pocket of El Salvadorans, but people live in their own neighborhoods, and you could live your entire life and never, if you live in the city, interact with anyone that doesn't look like you, which is kind of an interesting thing. You know, it's a kind of an interesting thing to grow up that way. But anyway, very good slice of life. Like I said about the other book, just she would have grown. This book was published, I think, in. Let me tell y'all, the book was published in 1989. So she would have grown up in the 60s and in Chicago. So that's why I wanted to read that one. And this I got from the library sale for $1. Then I heard about this from another podcaster, and what is the name of their podcast? She has a knitting channel, and I think that's why she came up on my feed. But her and her husband started doing, and I'll link them. We'll link them. Their podcast, their BookTube. They started about 2 weeks after we did, and what's the name of their? I can't think of the name of it, but anyway. The Body by Stephen King. This is the very first Stephen King I've ever read. And this is the book that Stand By Me, the movie Stand By Me, is based on this book right here. And I've seen the movie several times. It's one of those movies that you just gotta love. I had no idea that it was based on the Stephen King book. I just didn't know. But the book was really good. They didn't veer off from the story very much. They did everything you saw in the movie happened in the book, but sometimes it was a different character that did it in the movie than that did it in the book. But I read a little blurb that Stephen King was super happy with how they made the movie. So anyway, The Body by Stephen King, and it was less than I think it's like 197 pages, 179 pages. Got through that pretty quickly. So those are my next 2 books that I finished. I have 2 more to go, but I'll toss it to you for now.
All righty. So I almost forgot, I finished the library challenge at the library this year. So when you finish a library challenge, you get to pick a book off a shelf. So I picked this book called The Songbird of Hope Hill. And it looks interesting. It's about a minister who rescues a woman from a house of ill repute. Now, I had never heard that term other than my mother saying it. So it's a brothel or a house of prostitution, but they actually use the words house of ill repute on the back of this book. So I picked it up. It's not something that I normally read, but it was a free book. So why not stretch yourself a bit? So going into the summer, Barack Obama's reading list came out. So I love reading books off his book list. Maybe one show I could pull up a couple I've read over the years. But this year, I immediately, because I'm a library geek, went to the library apps and began to put the books on hold. A lot of them, since Obama had put out his list, there were a long wait for the books. But I did get lucky, because I go to 3 different libraries. I found at the South Pass Library, right on the shelf, is Martyr. Martyr is a very intense book. It's about an individual who has a lot going on in his life. He's from Iran. His mother was killed in 1988 when the United States shot down a passenger airliner. Now, it's not a true story, but the book imagines this character. He grew up without his mom, only his dad in the United States. It's really intense. So that's Martyr. All right, I'm going to throw it back to Kim, and then I'll finish off with my last 2 books.
All right, so my next 2, the last 2 that I finished in the month of July. I'm going to check real quick. I just want to make sure I really did finish this one. I did. I finished this one in July. I just want to make sure though. Sorry. Hold on. Yeah. So I finished Abby Jimenez just for the summer. I did a reading vlog, reading and slash crochet vlog on this book. So you can check that out on my channel, which will be linked in the description box. However, so I went way into what I liked about this book. This is about two people who they both have what they feel like is a curse. And the curse is that whenever they date someone and break up with that someone, that person goes on to meet the love of their lives. So these two people, a man and a woman, they never meet the person that's their person because, folks are, they date them for so long, they break up with them, and then these people go off and they find the love of their lives, and both of them are like, what? So they met on like he wrote like something, like, if you can imagine, it was like he was writing on Reddit, and she read what he wrote, and she commented, said, I suffer from the same thing. And then they jokingly said, well, maybe we should just date each other, break up, and then that will break the curse. We will then each meet the love of our lives. Well, you can imagine what happened. You know what happened. The fake dating. This is the fake dating trope, except it was never fake. Like, they almost immediately, especially him, almost immediately really likes her. This was my first time reading Abby Jimenez. When I finished, even in the middle of this book, I found out that this is actually the third in the series, and they are freestanding, so you don't have to read them in order. A lot of people think you should, but you don't have to. You don't miss anything if you haven't read the other ones. About the other ones, because the banter, the writing is funny. It's just the characters deal with really intense things. So even though they're doing this fake dating situation, and they actually end up, of course, falling in love, because it is a romance, so we know that's going to happen. But they both have intense things going on in their personal lives, which make it almost impossible for them to actually sustain a relationship, except it comes to a point where they really want to. She's super damaged because of how she grew up, so she's super resistant. He is not damaged like that, but has a ton of baggage going on. And so it's just them navigating the whole thing and figuring out if they can actually sustain a relationship. So this one was fantastic. And then that one, Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. And this is my second Celeste Ng, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, guys. I don't know if I'm pronouncing NG right, but that's how I pronounce it. Let me know in the comments if I need to pronounce it a different way. Spell it out phonetically for me. This was a very good book, but it's also a very sad book. And the very first line, actually, I think it's it's on the back of the book, so it's not a spoiler. The very first sentence of the very first chapter is, Lydia is dead. Second sentence, but they don't know this yet. So you know where we're going with this book. And this is about, I think, Chinese American family in the 70s in small town, middle America, navigating life and what it feels like. So actually, the mom is Caucasian, the dad is Chinese. They both bring to the table their own baggage, and they put stuff off on their kids. And their kids are consistently trying, or constantly trying. There are three kids. There's Lydia. There's the brother, whose name I think is, I don't remember. And then there's the youngest sister. Lydia is the apple of her parents' eyes, but they both have different expectations of her, and that's a lot of pressure on her. The brother is a high performing, kid, but because his parents' attention is all on her, he gets completely ignored. And then the youngest is almost like an afterthought. It's almost like they had her as an afterthought, and that is how her character is throughout the book. She's observing, she's seeing what's going on, but nobody's really noticing her. So it's very well done, very good, but not light or fluffy at all. Highly recommend though. So those are my 6 books finished for the month of July. That's my July wrap up.
Alrighty, so for me, back to my Obama list. So I found 2 more books. So being the library geek, the book Help Wanted, I found on the Libby app. And that is a great book. It's about employees at a big box store in a small town in Pennsylvania. And it's really timely because it's talking about how they want a better life, how the corporation's cutting hours and sort of gaming the system, how they want to get promotions. So it's really, so far, been a great book. The third book, Obama book, that I found was called Headshot. I've read some reviews that said that this is the best book of 2024. I put it on hold at the Culver City Library. Like I said, I'm a library geek. So county library, city library, library by my job. So that book, actually, the hold came through. I got to pick it up this week before the 23rd. So I'm going to go get Headshot, and then hopefully I will finish some of these before they're due back at the library. So, hey, go out to the libraries, read books. Reading is fun. Reading is a great way to take care of yourself. If you don't want to hear nonstop political ads or people fighting on Facebook or Instagram, pick up a great book, because it's just you, your stories, your characters, you're putting your vision to them in your head. It's a peaceful place. Read books.
All right, so I will talk a little bit about what I'm currently reading. I decided, I just finished Crazy Rich Asians. And if you follow me on my channel, you know I found this book at Goodwill. And so I decided that it would be one of the books I read for the month of July. But I started it on July 30th. So I finished it in August. We'll talk about it in the August wrap up. But after all that, I decided that it took me just until recently to actually finish it. So I don't have that many. Today is what? What's today? What's the date today?
The 18th, I believe.
So today is the 18th. We only have 12 days left to this month. And I still want to finish a couple more books because honestly, I've only finished 2 books for the month of August. So I decided that I'll just jump into some YA. So I found this series by Mercedes Ron. It is called, or maybe it's Ron, it's called My Fault. How did I fall? Easy. He turned my world upside down. It's a YA fluffy book, but it's a series. This one is called My Fault. The next one is called Your Fault. And then the third one is called Our Fault. This is her culpable series, and I'm actually enjoying it. I'm only about 32 pages in, but I am definitely enjoying it. I know I'm going to finish it this month. So I did that. And then I think the only other thing that I have going on reading wise, yeah, I think that's what I'm currently reading. And then I do have a book on the Kindle app that I am reading called The Goddesses of Kitchen Avenue by Barbara O'Neill. And it's about, I think it's 3 different women. One is an elderly lady who just lost her husband and she's trying to navigate her life. Her granddaughter who comes to support her through all of that, who just got separated from her husband and divorced. And then the next door neighbor who also checks on the older lady who recently got divorced from her husband who cheated on her. And it's them navigating all of their personal challenges, but doing it together. So that one I'm doing on audio, and I'm also audioing currently one of the books off of Obama's list, but it is a nonfiction book. that I just started listening to on Audible, and it is called Of Boys and Men. I can't see it. Of Boys and Men by Richard Reeves, and it's a whole commentary on the state of maleness, in the world right now. And since I clearly married to one, but I'm also raising one, and so I thought it would be a great book for me to read to give me some insight. So that is it for me and reading.
All righty. So all the books on that I talked about, I'm going to put a link to my Goodreads. And same with Kim. Yep. So you can check those out. Have fun reading. We'll see you next time.
We'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.